Hey people, I done broke the YouTube machine with this last QNN report. It says this video hadn't got any views since it was published. No watch time. But I know it got views because I got comments on it. But this is the first time I've seen it break the machine this long. It's just on this one video. It's not doing this on other videos. So I guess I just worded everything right this time. I finally figured it out. So Barbara Looney Tunes had asked me on this Gog Magog movie, what do you mean when you cross over? Will you face those questions? And so after all this yammering, I went back and looked at her question, seeing that I didn't even answer the question. So in that movie I had recommended watching this after school meaning of life movie. I think it's only like 5 or 6 minutes. No, it's 13 and a half minutes. And I showed his first little cut on that first time I recommended it. But what it talks about is the meaning of life. And you say you don't know the meaning of life until you die and come back. And then when you die, you don't die. And I recommend everybody click on it. I'll put it on the bottom of this movie here. It talks about all these ancient writers that took the death drug. And you die, you come out of your body, and when you come back, when you get there, you know you just killed yourself. You don't know if you're going to live through it. And then it doesn't take long, and you come on back, and then you just have a whole new view of life, because you better understand what death is. But when I did it, I had been reading up and studying on it for a while, and I've been studying just on that drug for a year before I did it. And I thought I was going to see thought. When I got there, I saw the neon Nazis. What I saw made me think of this, of Quetzalcoatl. And maybe it's because the drug I did had come from South America. But it looked like a whole bunch of neon Nazis, all different colors. They were all singing and encouraging me to sing with them. You know, they were like this, just moving all over the place, the machine elves. And it was a DMT overdose trip is what it was. I did it 3 times years ago. So I don't know anything, you know. The things I talk about are things that I believe and then what I read out of the old books. And so I have a belief system, and you know, when I learned some information, it depended on how hard it was to dig it up. How hard were they trying to cover that information up? That's how high up I put it on my belief scale. So I searched for old censored books and old censored writers. You know, there's a reason they're trying to shut them up. I know, you know, it's the same reason they try to shut me up. They don't like what I'm saying. They don't want the people to know. An educated public is hard to handle. So the question, you know, is when you cross over, will you face those questions? I don't know. The way I see it, you know, I studied the old writings in the Egyptian. And so everybody tells you, you know, to go into the light. So that's the last thing I want to do is go into the light. Everybody's saying go into the light. It's not where I want to be. And so the way you train yourself not to go into the light is by meditation. And you meditate until you create light. You know, you get in a fairly dark room and meditate until you start seeing light. And when you see that light, you know, if you try to go into that light, it's going to go out. But if you try to move away from that light it's going to stay there, and then another light. So the more you move away from that light, the more light you're going to create. You keep creating light. Every time that light comes up, you move away from it. And after a while, you're going to be laying there meditating in the dark, and you're going to open your eyes because you're going to think that somebody has walked in and is holding a high-powered flashlight over your face. You're going to think that there's a bright light on the other side of your eyelids. You're going to open your eyes and see you're in the pitch dark. And that's when you realize that you create the light. You know, the light's in you. You are the light. So that's the first thing, to figure out that you are the light. An ancient story says, that the man had become greater than the God. And what that means is our mind has evolved so much that we shut out the voice of God. We can't hear it anymore. Our mind overrides it, and it's smart enough that we can get by without listening to what the God says. And that's why most of the world's like it is today, because they can't hear the God. The gods and the spirits are jealous of us because we have everything they got. We got the light, although we don't know how to use it well, but we got a body to go with it. They don't have the body. They can't taste food. They can't smell the flowers, and so they're going to try to trick you. They're going to try to get into your body. They just want to borrow that body. The sweeter the con, the harder the brick. And so the ancient writings of Hermes, he says, go away from the light. Go away from the light. And that's why I meditate and I practice on creating my own light. So before you die, you want to realize, that you are the light. You want to practice this so much that you don't get fooled into going into the light. They say that's where they just snatch your life chi up and stick it in another body, to come down here and slave away again. But the writings of Hermes, he says to go into the dark and create your own light, and then dive into the fire and absorb the knowledge, and then sit back and plan and learn and plan for your reincarnation, when and how and where you want to be. And so the only hell is in your conscience. If you felt it was okay to do it, you're not going to have a problem. There is no God greater than the one inside you, the Satan inside of you. The Satan is the one that's going to be on the stand. And so the Egyptians, they had this book of death, and they would just practice saying these things, I have not committed adultery. I have not killed. Don't matter how many married women they screwed around with, how many people they killed. They just practice saying these things. And you know how people could say something so much that they actually believe the lie. And that's the idea, to brainwash yourself into believing you didn't do it. I didn't do any evil things. And that way you won't have a conscience there at Judgment Day to deal with. And so I showed in a movie where in the Egyptian writings, it was Menu put his spoon on when you had to do something you wasn't too sure if it was right. The priest or the king, he would go and pray and talk to the god and come back and say, hey, Menu put the spoon on. It's okay. I won't be judged for that on Judgment Day. It's okay to go bomb Israel. It's okay. It's okay to kill that son of a bitch stealing your chickens. Shoot that coyote. But it's all inside of you. There's nothing outside. It's all inside. And so in the Greek and the Hebrew, they both talk about Menu too. Minos, several different spellings. Minos. And in the Hebrew, it's just M-I-N-U, Menu. And it'll say, Menu put the spoon on. I showed it in that one movie. But Menu is the king that became the judge on Judgment Day. And he's got a python catheter. And you read into the story, and it's all alchemy. There's more into it. But in the Hebrew spelling, that's where I get most information. And it's just M-I-N-U. And so usually it comes after tack, and it's read backwards. And so it's when, W-N, when, and then I-M is form, to make from, is to form. If you take a piece of clay and you make something from it, I-M means to form. When form into. like everything else in the Hebrew, it's just a piece of a word. There's words come before and come after. But it's just like, the rest of the names. It has meaning, and the names are usually verbs and adjectives. And the same as in the Sumerian writings, the gods kept changing their name to the latest, greatest thing that they did. But yeah, in all three of those writings, Menu is known as sitting on the throne at Judgment Day. He's the one judging the souls. But Menu is from Inu. So they got the world, believing brainwashing and believing in this hell. And they believe that, if people didn't fear a Judgment Day, then, they just wouldn't know how to act. And my friend had reposted this the other day. Somebody said, people pleasing is a self-protective pattern. If we keep them happy, they won't turn on us. But it comes at a terribly high price because our fixation with keeping others happy, we undermine our own happiness and our desire to please others. We deny ourselves. Perhaps it's time for a new way. Please others when it truly pleases you. And so, see, you got people that have no idea what's going on in the world. He went to a Writing Your Way, a home 6-week course. And if you think like this, you should never talk to anybody but your psychiatrist. You really don't have a clue. But yeah, they believe the whole world would just go berserk if we didn't have a fear of an afterlife and after judgment. So many artists have done this and drew pictures of what they had saw. And mine was more like this, except, more Nazi shape. Instead of everything closed in, everything was out. And they were happy to see me. And they told me they were lonely and nobody comes to visit us anymore. And the third time I did it, I learned that, the more you sing, the longer you stay. And it's like they want you to sing. They like the voice. And then just the smell of it, it's an aromatic, and I could smell it for every day for 6 months. When I walked back in that room, I could still smell it in there, and it was them calling me, please come back and see us, we're lonely. And then it finally quit. And then it would just come back, a couple years, 3 years after, I still could smell it once in a great while. But yeah, I'll go back. I enjoyed it. And the only reason I don't is because it takes a big preparation, to get ready and do it. And meditation and diet before you go. And if you don't prepare correctly, then it could be a more evil sight that you see. And I wouldn't know this firsthand, it's just, something I read from somebody else, what they said they saw. So as to the questions when you cross over, there's some writings from Hermes, and he says, that there's some gates you go through, and he says deny everything, and yes, I'm supposed to be here, and deny everything else. It says God created no evil. And so that means, there must have been another creator, because there's certainly evil. But evil comes from this old world, or, awful. It's where your word awful comes from. And it means, far from good is what it means. Oh, that's just awful. It's just the absence of good. Not good. So is it good to lie to people or to coerce them and mislead them into serving your agenda? If it's not good, it's evil. And so in all my Bible translations, there has to be somewhere in there where there's one word that shows that it was not a good translation. And so Is it good enough? Is there a good enough? God said, oh, that's good enough. No, if it's not good, it's evil. And so we got an evil Bible translation. And it's not just the Holy Bible, it's probably every religion has been mistranslated. Every ancient religious manual has been mistranslated. I got turned on to this movie the other day. Everything in it's English. And this guy's saying that all the mosques have a different translation for the Quran. Every one of them's different. And the whole purpose is, to keep all the different sects separated. And I listen to this guy and I like him. He sounds like me. We got bad translations. And people aren't going to like what I say. They can't handle the truth. The truth is, that they made this story up about the judgment in the afterlife so they could get away with everything that they do. You watch the Senate hearings, and Jim Jordan is constantly busting balls up there and finding all of these politicians guilty of whatever, all the way up to child sacrifice. They're guilty of everything, and the idea is so the people say, oh yeah, well, they'll get theirs come Judgment Day. No, that's something they made you believe. There's no proof to it at all, and they made you believe that so they can get away with everything they do. Epstein didn't die in jail. Epstein's out and having a good time somewhere. That was a total different body that you seen rolled out of there. You hear too many times, oh, we accidentally cremated the body and buried it at sea. The evidence always disappears, and people just suck it up. They can't figure it out. But yeah, there is no judgment day. The judge is inside of you, and if it's okay with you, if it don't keep you up at night, it's good enough. It's good enough. All right, I'm gonna cut this off here. Good day.